Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Robert Stickle. I'm also joined by my colleague Jim Patterson. Jim will be today's presenter and will discuss the topic of revolutionizing strategic portfolio management with AI. This webinar is a new edition of our series of strategic portfolio management videos, so if you enjoy this webinar, feel free to watch the others we have available on our channel and look towards the next installment, which we'll be releasing soon. And as always, I hope that today's presentation grants you some insight into the world of project and portfolio management and gets you excited for the new developments happening within the industry and here at OnePlan. Thank you again. I'll now turn the presentation over to Jim.
Thank you, Robert. Welcome, everybody. We're excited to bring you this topic today, which is really at the forefront of many technology discussions today. How to leverage the advent and the proliferation of AI, how to do it in a way that's beneficial to us. Today, we're going to be talking about how to leverage it in conjunction with strategic portfolio management and how we can enhance that discipline with what we have here today and what OnePlan is offering today as a solution for you. So with that, let's get started. So let's just talk about strategic portfolio management, because that's an evolution in and of itself. We've gone from more traditional project portfolio management over the past decades into what the analysts like Gartner are calling strategic portfolio management in today's business environment. And why is it important that we make that shift? We're not making a wholesale change, but we're enhancing what we've been doing and further maturing what we've done in the past to become more effective and meet today's challenges. Some of the things we have is an increasing complex business environment, meaning we have more things to address. The speed of change is going more quickly. Our organizations are becoming more complex. We have to find ways to better manage the risk and optimize our portfolios, and also make sure that they're consistently being aligned with the strategic goals of the organization and where leadership wants to take the business. On top of that, there's a greater need for financial and resource optimization, scarce resources. There's more things possible for us to do or ideas that people have than we can possibly do. We have to do a good job of identifying, prioritize our opportunities, allocate resources and dollars where they can do the most good, and maximize the return on our investment, but also make sure it helps further the overall objectives and goals and strategies of our leadership. On top of that, there's a higher than ever demand for data-driven decision-making. With the availability of analytical tools and data analysis, we need to, in the portfolio management realm, leverage that to get better insights not only into our performance, but enable us to make better informed decisions to help select the right things, maybe stop doing the wrong things, and perhaps get more effective in how we can deliver on the portfolio that we have to achieve strategies. On top of that, we have the complexity of the adoption of a variety of methodologies and related tools. It gets more complex with that proliferation, such that some projects are doing more agile approaches, some doing more waterfall, some doing some hybrids. And they may be using a variety of different software tools to execute on those things. So there's a greater need than ever to pull that together into an effective portfolio management solution where project portfolios are aligned with the strategic goals as well, to make sure we always have our eye on the ball as an organization and are rowing in the same direction overall, regardless of where we sit within that organization. And then there's emerging technologies and business models. This is being driven a lot by the age of digital transformation. As we digitally transform as organizations, it opens up the doors to having to reinvent ourselves or the way that we reach our customers. It brings about new opportunities and challenges for organizations as we move in this direction. And OnePlan provides tools to help you evaluate and prioritize these opportunities and ensure they're aligned with that overall business strategy, which should be our guidepost. It should be our North Star, where we're trying to go to. And the idea is we have to be able to do that cohesively across the organization. Now, the Gartner Group says that by 2025, 70% of digital investments will fail to deliver the expected business outcomes due to the absence of strategic portfolio management approaches. Now, in this era where the need for data-driven decision-making and portfolio optimization is here, a survey that was done by the Gartner Group about what would be most valuable to meet these business challenges. If you look at the bars over to the left, the light blue says the percentage of the respondents that basically put these things in their top 5 of the things that are needed, And the dark blue insert bar is what percentage of the people put these things as their number one most valuable to meet the challenge. If we look at number one, collaborate across groups to align strategy, get everybody on the same page as we're talking about. This is a challenge in this data-driven decision-making, portfolio optimization. We need to be able to do that effectively in order to succeed. Aligned with that really is the execution of large enterprise-wide initiatives. We have cross-functional, geographically dispersed initiatives. We have to be able to collaborate and coordinate in a way to come out the end of that with a cohesive approach and successful delivery. The same thing holds true with program management, quick and effective portfolio prioritization, which tied for third, which are related into themselves because now we're managing a collection of projects and initiatives. And those all have to have the right things in them, and they all have to be managed in an effective way to have success at the end of the day. So strategic portfolio management, as we look at that, to get that corporate-wide view and get everybody aligned with the strategies, we are moving away as organizations more from those more departmental or siloed PMOs or project management organizations into more EPMOs or enterprise portfolio management offices, so that we can support enterprise-wide strategy to execution and alignment of that execution and adapt across the board together as we need to make changes. And strategic portfolio management, or SPM technology, really supports more than just managing a portfolio of projects and initiatives and then potentially aligning them to the stated strategies by the organization. There are other things to factor in, associate, or align with, like business capabilities, digital and physical products that we might have, applications that support the things that we're trying to change or create, and the projects themselves. All these things are interrelated, and if we don't address all aspects of that, we'll probably have less than satisfactory results at the end of the day. Now, a complete SPM solution must capture, define, and prioritize business strategies, the execution of those initiatives and projects, and also factor in and capture what we need for core assets of the organization. And the stakeholders that do this are the leadership, who set direction and the strategy. You've got the IT and functional management, who owns critical assets within the organization and the infrastructure. And then we have the execution teams that plan and deliver on the projects to kind of support the things that have to be delivered in order to succeed at the strategies. So one plan is designed to be your strategic portfolio management solution, a complete solution for the enterprise. So for example, the business leaders can develop a strategy. We have a place in there to do objectives and key results, or OKRs, or manage overall value streams for maybe more continuous delivery. And the idea is to set the course for the organization such that when we execute, the execution leaders, regardless of the type of business or the type of project or portfolio management that they're doing, have a way to align with what the business leaders want in that strategy and make sure we're working on the right things and we're working on the right things well. And the functional leaders, the technology managers, even IT, may have the overall enterprise architecture or application portfolio that has the technology in it that maybe has things that need to be modified or updated or considered in order to succeed in executing on the projects themselves and ultimately to succeed at achieving the strategies or the objectives. So one plan with a full SPM capability, to give you an overarching map of that. On the intake side of things, where things get formulated, senior leadership starts with developing those strategies for the organization, where they want the organization to go. And there may be objectives and key results around those. There may be an overall enterprise architecture that has other portfolios of, say, applications, business capabilities, products, your value streams, what have you. And those things have to be factored in and managed and be kept up to date in order to succeed at those strategies as well. So it's a very strategic aspect of this. Now, once those are established and managed, and the organization states what it is they want to achieve overall, we now have things like project requests that come in that spawn off of that to achieve those strategies. People have ideas and requests that allow us to make submissions to be considered to say, this initiative, if we approve it, can help us further those strategies that leadership has set forward, and also can help us in better improving our enterprise architecture that supports the entire organization. So all of these things are interrelated, but ultimately represent where intake happens. Now, once that intake happens, we move over into portfolio planning. And this is where the portfolio managers want to do overall portfolio planning of the initiatives. These requests and other things may, foster or generate things that we consider to do in our active portfolio. And we have portfolio planning with more traditional list views or sheet views of our portfolio. We might have more board views for the more agile folks that maybe do things like program increment planning. We also have roadmap views for the more product-oriented or delivery-oriented views of those same portfolios, ultimately so we can analyze and come up with the right mix of portfolio and then execute and track those things as we go. Resource capacity planning is an important part of this. We can't do everything. We have to prioritize and figure out, do we have the bandwidth and do we have the right mix of skills and resources in order to get these things done? We have to have an eye on that as we do our portfolio planning. The financial plan, do we have the budget and the dollars to do that? Just because we have the budget and dollars doesn't mean we have the resources, and vice versa. The idea, does these things fit within the budgets we've been allocated? And then ultimately, we're going to get hit with changes. We're going to see the marketplace change on us. We're going to see customer demands change. And we're going to have to evaluate alternatives, and what if scenario modeling is important. One plan allows us to do all of these things within the tool set. Now we move to the execution side. And this is where we have to build detailed work plans in order to achieve the initiative or the project that we're working on. We might do waterfall work plans. We might do more agile backlogs with sprint plans. And we can do that right within one plan itself. We don't need anything else to do that. But there's also a set of connectors that allow us to connect to the most popular planning and execution tools like a Microsoft Project or a Smartsheet or an Azure DevOps or a Jira from the Agile side. The idea there is that we can take these different methodologies and these different tool sets that we talked about in the earlier slide and pull them together into a common portfolio on an automated basis. And then there's the role of the resource manager, who has to help the project managers get the right resources on their individual project plans, and then possibly have resource negotiation, because the project may say this is what we need as far as skill sets, and it's up to the resource managers to determine who they can have specifically, what named individuals can help them on those types of things, and that negotiation is important. And then there's the team members who have to respond. They have to see what's been put on their plate and assigned to them. They have to say, what's the progress and the status? What's some comments or other things they need to feed back into the project or the project manager in order to keep this thing going in a steady and successful fashion. And some folks may need to do timesheets, and those timesheets could be used for capitalization of labor, chargebacks to other departments, or even billing to outside clients. The idea is that all of this can happen in one tool within one plan. On the delivery and the outcome side of things, reporting to the executives, whether it be the status reports on individual projects, whether it be overall dashboards on the overall health of the portfolio and different segments of that portfolio. Visualizations of how all these things interrelate so we understand all the things we need to consider and the things that maybe we're dependent on, and whether or not those things are on track or maybe if they're at risk. And then ultimately, with some organizations, they may state benefits that they hope to get in the intake part of this when they put a business case together in a request or an idea. But then many organizations today want to be able to track, are those benefits realized? And one plan gives us the ability to track those benefits realization should we desire to do that. Now, our focus today is really about how AI can augment all this. And we're going to talk today about Sophia GPT within one plan, the artificial intelligence assistant, and how that can be leveraged in doing those things here today and becoming even more effective. Ultimately, the things on the left-hand side here is about doing the right work and selecting the right things. On the right, it's about doing the work right and executing on a good level. Now, we talked about PMOs, but that's not just the only application for where one plan can do these things. Cross-functionally, horizontally across the organization, yes, there's the project management offices, the PMOs and the EPMOs, but we have large innovation and transformation programs going on in many organizations today that are managed as a large entity in and of themselves. Information technology, or IT, has projects going on all the time. Application and product development in this digital age. Professional services is part of many organizations' lifeblood, and they have to be managed in a way that's effective across a portfolio of professional services efforts. Sales and marketing have campaigns and other things to help improve and reach customers differently. And operations is part of the resource management aspect of things, where we have to understand, how much bandwidth of our resources is being taken by operational concerns. The idea is that there's a use case and application for one plan across all these. So the AI piece that we're focused on here today is really about, the evolution. It originally started where we started through APIs to integrate and get more data sources brought together so we have a common view of a lot of different data from a lot of different sources and made us more effective at doing that. Then we moved into more automation where we had some smart technology to, do business process and workflow and, bring that stuff across to us to make us more effective on an automated basis rather than manual. And then our reporting tools, had some predictive analytics brought into it. Power BI from Microsoft does that today so that it can give us some suggestions for strategic portfolio management or giving us some predictive analytics on where it thinks we're going to end up if we continue on our current course without corrective action. Those things have all been there. But where we're at today now is we have an AI-based assistant for strategic portfolio management that's built into our tools itself. And in one plan, we've built in Sophia GPT to do that. Now in the future, we may have some AI-based autonomous modes for SPMs where they automatically detect things and do things for us. We're not there now, but we definitely have a big advance with this AI-based assistant type of approach. And Sophia GPT, think of it as AI as a collaborator. It's not going to do your job for you, but it is going to give you some assistance, maybe help you do deeper analysis than you can do with your own human intellect. And it's based on Microsoft's Azure OpenAI GPT, or generative pre-trained transformer. What it has, instead of the OpenAI for ChatGPT that's out on the open internet, it has the boundaries and the protections and the compliance that comes with Microsoft's cloud and Azure. And it has learned from all the things that are available out there. Plus, in our use of OnePlan and Sophia, it has learned OnePlan such that it can make suggestions based upon what it knows about information in general from the world, as well as what OnePlan has to offer as a tool set. And it also, in context, can actually look at the data you have on the screen and factor that in to the suggestions that it makes. So the idea there is it can help us with data entry, information retrieval, identifying, finding data anomalies, and just do an overall analysis that may be hard for us to do on our own. So with that, I would like to take us into OnePlan real quickly. And since our focus is how AI is going to help today, I'm just going to do a very brief high-level overview of the things that are in OnePlan that we described as far as capabilities. For example, if we start on the intake side and say organizations and leadership wants to have a strategy, this is where they might put their objectives and their key results in here, which might be the objectives of the individual strategies, and the tangible key results are measures to see how we're progressing towards achieving those. For example, if I look into an objective here, like increased project success rate, and I drill into the details of that, we can categorize it, we can set a schedule and a deadline of when we want these things to happen, and we can associate them with different things. In this case, we are associated with different key results that are the tangible measures. And if I click on one of those and drill in, the key result actually has its own metrics. In this case, it's a current number we're shooting for of a target number, of which we've achieved 75 of the 100 target that we have. We're 75% complete, and we want to have this done by a certain time frame. But also notice that this strategy is also aligned with other associated items. Here, it's aligned with an application called e-commerce, and also associated with initiatives, some projects and epics that have a bearing on whether or not we achieve this key result, which supports that strategy. Now, if we were going to understand how this stuff interrelates, I might just say, are there dependencies that have to happen before we do this? Well, there's something that's actually waiting on us out there as a successor. And in this runway view of what's all interrelated here, we might take a look at how this key result is aligned with this strategy that we drilled in from. But there's these two projects and epics that are associated with these strategies and key results, and one of them is showing red. It is also aligned, or these are also aligned with applications, business capabilities, and value streams out beyond here. But we might need to drill in either through a quick edit of the data or a drill through to the project itself, where we could actually go in and look at the details of seeing what's wrong in here and why these things are going red, and be able to ascertain and keep our finger on the pulse of this critical associated item here. Now, these are the things of the strategy piece that many people have not embarked upon yet as far as portfolio management. They may have a portfolio of initiatives, but they don't necessarily have the strategies aligned within their solution. The other piece that's an addition that we talked about to traditional portfolio management is the idea of enterprise architecture. And in this case, you may have multiple portfolios of items in here, like products, like business capabilities, applications, and value streams that we may want to associate our initiatives with. And so as we look with this, we can see what we want to associate with, and we can also track the details on these. So if we wanted to manage a product portfolio or an application portfolio, we can manage and look at the details around those things. And we can really decide to capture what we want around this, but we can have the data and the metadata of the categorization. We might have vision statements and mission statements and SWOT analysis for that. We may even have some associations. And looking here on the enterprise architecture, we're associated with key results. We're associated with some business capabilities, as well as some initiatives or projects within this consumer goods area. And the idea, we can also track things like financials and an overall work plan, like, for example, like a release plan around this product as we go through its life cycle. Now, ultimately, as we look at the visualization around this, and we try to visualize from this perspective, we can see that there's some predecessor successors to this consumer goods product that we have, as well as consumer goods is related to 3 key results, 3 different objectives, and has 2 projects and epics that are associated on it that we have to deliver in order to get that done. And they all are related to different business capabilities. Once again, that complex interrelation is all visible within here. Now, staying on the context of that diagram I showed you about one plan earlier on the intake side, we also have ideas and requests. And in this ideas and requests area, we can provide a central portal or hub for people to submit such ideas. And in that regard, I can look at the website design, for example, as a request. And as I look into the details in here, I can see that we put business case narrative, we've characterized it, we're putting some high-level information here about prioritization methods that are configurable for you, etc. But also see that they're aligned with a key result in here as well. So we have an initiative or an idea who is not yet a project that we've already identified that if we do approve this, or that maybe we should approve it so that we can support this key result that's going on within the organization. And once again, those types of visualizations can happen from this perspective as well. Now, ultimately, if you have ideas and requests in your system, they can be promoted from this idea state into projects in your portfolio. And when they are promoted into your portfolio, we can look at the portfolio in a variety of different ways. Like here I have multiple portfolios that may be, in this case, it's representing different parts or business units within the organization that each have their own portfolios. And we can have security to segment that. On top of that, notice that we have programs within these portfolios, and then projects and epics or different initiatives that are in here that are basically being done to support that. Now, we are linked to other tools, but one plan can actually do the whole job in and of itself right here within this portfolio. As we go through here, we can have more list views like this with the data elements and the columns of data that we want to see. We have board views for the more agile folks who want to work with this stuff in more agile cards, being able to get the details at any given point in time on any card just by the click of a button, and being able to look at that as they see fit. And we also have roadmap views, such that for the more product-oriented folks, we can look at these roadmaps and see where we're at, and basically have swim lanes based on different criteria and things like that as we look at when we're going to deliver things and what state they're in. So ultimately, this is a flexible set of views that we can work with. Now, at any given point in time, I could drill from any of these views, the list, the board, the roadmap, into either that quick edit view I just showed you, or I can drill right into the aspects of these these projects if I want. So if I wanted to drill into this particular project's details page, this work planner details page, I have all the information here, where we're at and what stage, the metadata and categorization we have, the business case data that came over from the idea or the request, and all the association and all the associated items that we have in here that are available to us that we might be aligned with in the enterprise architecture realm that we talked about, whether it be key results, applications, products, or value streams. The key here is that it all ties together and they're all interrelated and associated. On the work plan side of things, we have the concept of work types. So for example, we have schedules, we have backlogs for more agile plans. We can track issues, risks, changes, key decisions. Won't go into detail on those today, but I just wanted to give you a highlight of that, as well as being able to do things like individual status reports for a project. So as leadership wants natural output of this without us having to build these from scratch every time, these can be created by pulling data from the system and also letting us put our status report narrative and associated items in here that we want to correlate or relate to leadership. And as we submit them, keep a history of all those things and snapshot that data. Now, ultimately, we have individual resource plans for our individual projects where we can actually plan with generic resources or named individuals, right? The resources that are required. We can do the financial planning and tracking in here to help us understand what the dollars that are required, and we can put our own cost categories in here. And ultimately, this is all going to bubble up to portfolio level data. So for example, an overall resource plan that we have could bubble up to an overall resource plan here that says, let's see, I got these grouped by role, and I've got 2 data analysts and a generic data analyst in here that basically says I have one that is has a period of over allocation in here, one that's still in the green, but I also tells me that I still have generic data analyst allocations in here that I have to put a name to. Ultimately, for example, I might come in here and say, I need to find what data analyst I can put on this product launch. And it allows me to get candidates to be able to see who might have availability that I could actually replace that generic resource up top with a named individual and do my resource negotiation with my resource manager and my project managers along the way. Once again, all part of this mix. We talked also about what if analysis and resource modeling. Now, one plan has the ability to create models, and you can determine what elements are in which model. In this case, I've got some model folders that are set up by the different portions of the business. But let's say for right now, I'm focused on IT. This is one where I could say there's potential projects and initiatives that I would like to have in here. And essentially, I've got 35 projects that I'm considering doing. Now, if I put constraints on this and I do some selections on this, I can come in and say, I can create a scenario, say, for example, and these are already done just in the interest of time, that says, if I have a $10 million budget, what we selected or thought we could do, we can only do 22 of those projects, and 11 of those we couldn't do because of constraints we might have in resources or dollars. Now, as we look at that modeler, I might come in and say, okay, we know what's in or out, and we can choose and select what's in and out at any given point in time. But let's just say I wanted to look at this from a financial constraint perspective. If I'm trying to get $10 million, yes, I fell within the $10 million. It looks like in certain months I'm over, but certain months I'm under the prorated amount of that $10 million as I go through this. I can also decide at any given point in time, if I select or deselect a project, it'll dynamically change that as I move forward in the analysis, and I can keep saving scenarios or keep saving updates to the scenario as I go forward. I can do the same thing with resources. As I'm looking at the resources that are required, I can come in here and look and see that the resources that I need to make this happen are not too bad. But for example, I've got a period in here where I've got to do something about Jared's severe overallocation out here in October. And that could be a combination of selecting of the projects that I'm doing, substituting him on projects, or I might actually put a timeline out here, and I might say what I really need to do here is I need to take a couple of projects that Jared's on and maybe delay those out, and maybe take some ones out here that let's just say let's take something I haven't even started yet and say, what if I move this out? And it will dynamically update the resource profile down below here based upon the things that I do between selection and staging of these particular projects. Ultimately, you can do analysis on this. I can come in here and take a look at things like bubble charts traditionally that you are used to seeing, where you can look at, say, prioritization scores versus benefits, and look at what's in here, and the size of the bubble being the budget in this case. I can see what's in, and I can see things that are high prioritization score and the highest benefit to us. But I can also see, for example, what we didn't select, and I can see that the things we didn't select tend to be on the lower end of things. But the idea, we have that analysis right here within the system. And then ultimately, I'll just touch on real briefly what we have for team members. And the team members can actually come in, and when they're assigned work across a variety of projects and portfolios, they may have tasks and backlog items. They might have issues and risks and things like that to do. They can actually status these things, update dates, percent completes, completion status. They can even do things like create conversation threads around these things. And the idea here being is that you can come in and say, I'd like to have a conversation thread with some of the team members that I'm working on this and collaborate in that fashion as well. So the idea here is that we can be fully immersed into the process, even as a team member. Then the timesheet will just say that if you have a need to do timesheeting, it is a feature that it's a natural built-in function within OnePlan that you don't have to do something or separate or external for it. Now, the last part of the live piece here, let's just go back to the ideas area and talk about where and how Sophia and the AI comes into the mix. So hopefully that gave you a really brief overview of the different components of OnePlan. But let's say I'm in the ideas here and I was interested in saying, all right, I've got all these ideas I'm considering, I got all these requests, and I wanted to give me an idea of maybe how I should prioritize these things. So Sophia is a little button right down here in the lower right. And if I open it up, depending on what part of the product of OnePlan that I'm in, it's going to give me some examples of questions that I can ask, but I can always ask my own and keep, trying to reword them and things like that till I, refine the analysis that I'm looking for. But let's say in this case, live, I'm sitting here saying, based on priority and ROI, what 3 projects should we approve first? Hold on. Let me do this. And let me paste that in. Which 3 projects should we approve first based on ROI and priority? And it'll do some thinking. And as it goes through and does its analysis based on the data that we have available in here in OnePlan, and the more rich the data you have available, the more factors it will take into consideration. But after looking at that, it's going to give me some suggestion. In this case, it says the cybersecurity audit that this project has a high priority and a high ROI, and the budget is well below what the estimated benefits are. And it gives me a series of explanations of which these are, and it says these are the top 3 candidates we should consider. So the idea here is that you can do this type of generative language-based AI query like with Sophia and have it give you some analysis. Now, we have some pre-built ones to look at for you to consider, and I'll send you a slide deck with these in them. But as I go back to the slide presentation and I go look at Sophia GPT use cases, sample use cases, and I would say we're in our early stages of Sophia, but it's doing a lot of things for us right now, and we're going to continue to evolve this. But we have use cases that can help us in strategic planning, portfolio optimization, work management, risk assessment, resource allocation, and investment forecasting. These are all areas that we can ask it questions in. So for example, in strategic planning, we're going to try to increase our productivity by streamlining the OKR process. We can improve alignment with our initiatives. We can maybe help us with more data-driven decision-making and even optimize what we're doing with the OKRs and the key results that we want to track around this as well. So one example I have in here, let's just say we want to analyze data to identify patterns, opportunities, and potential risks based upon the strategic plan that's in here. So as I go here, and it will launch Sophia, it will ask it that question, analyze data to identify patterns, opportunities, and potential risks. Now, in that, it's basically identifying a list of patterns. It's some opportunities for improving in customer excellence and transforming corporate culture, potential risks that we have at-risk objectives here that it names. We have off-track objectives that it names. So basically, it gives us some recommendations around all that, gives us some analysis based upon the question that we asked. Now there's portfolio optimization. So in this case, we can do data analysis of the portfolio, maybe some prediction and forecasting. We can even do some risk assessment, even portfolio optimization based upon the data that's in there and what it can help us with. So for example, I can ask it some very literal things, for example, like provide a summary of the portfolio data. and it'll go in and ask Sophia for a summary of the data that's in there. And in this case, it'll probably give me more objective-based data of some of the quantification and the statistics of that as I go through. And as I look at that, it's basically going to give me a synopsis, of what I'm looking at. Now, ultimately, we can ask it at the end of this analysis, we can ask it follow-on questions as well. So for example, which projects are the highest risk and explain why? So on top of that analysis, it's going to give me a risk assessment. And it tells me that this project is at risk because it's quite high, and so it's quite important, and there's a number of active issues and risks that are concerning and might cause delay, and that there's a budget variance that may put this thing at risk as well. So the idea here is that there's all kinds of things that we can be working with. Work management down in the tactical level, whether it be in the work plans themselves, in the schedules. It can help us with work plan creation, schedule risk assessment, schedule optimization, etc. As I look in here and say, let's say I create a new project and it's got a subject matter and maybe some categorization that we do. It can actually suggest a schedule work breakdown structure or a selection of tasks that you may want to build a plan with. So in this example, I'll show you what that does. In this case, we're going to create a new plan from scratch. So we're going to create a new project. We're going to make it part of a parent plan, and we're going to give it a name called Smart Home Automation System. It's got categorizations there. And in the work plan, we'll come up with a blank work plan, so we don't have any tasks or anything in there. But we're going to go into the templating function. Now we have different ways to do templates. You can save your own library of templates that you can go over and over again, but we can use the AI to help develop something. So it says, help us develop a plan for this smart home automation system. And it actually came up with a work breakdown structure of tasks for this type of project based upon its knowledge. It actually gave us the resources we're going to need, and it gave us the opportunity to map those resources in one plan and then actually accept that and actually have it then and be incorporated as the plan right here in one plan. Pretty amazing. And then we can actually go in and ask it follow-on questions. We can put dependencies on here. We can change the durations and the dates and modify the plan a bit and save the changes that we have, right? And do those modifications. Then we can ask it a follow-on question like, can we, let's rank the task by highest risk and explain why. So it gives me an analysis of the tasks in here that are high and medium, and why it thinks they are high and medium risk. So we get an analysis on there so we can possibly do some pre-mitigation or have that on our radar for things that we actually need to keep an eye on. So, let's say on number 5, deployment maintenance, risk medium, that it requires careful planning and execution to ensure all components are installed correctly and function seamlessly. The risk lies in possible delays in device shipments and unavailability of necessary tools and issues. So it's basically telling you based upon what it understands of the nature of the work, not just the tactical task structure itself. Now, if I go in here and I look at risk identification, we can help us identify and categorize risks. It can help predict future risks. It can even recommend mitigation strategies on risks. So in this particular case, if I run this one and we go into the risk log and say, identify potential risks and how to mitigate them for smart home automation for this particular plan. So some of the risks are unauthorized access to personal data, data breaches, mitigation strategies. It offers some ideas there. Potential risks and mitigation strategy on interoperability and compatibility, technical failure and reliability risks, etc. The idea here is it's giving us analysis even ahead of time that might help us be on our guard and be on alert to the things that we need to keep a finger on the pulse of. Now, also resource capacity planning is an area that we can deal with. So for example, overall resource allocation, the capacity planning itself, optimization of resources, and even predictive talent acquisition of where we're short and what we might need to hire, for example. And I've got a couple of cases in here on that. So let's say for this shipping and delivery project that we have, can it suggest a resource plan for us on a monthly basis for a capacity plan? And in this case, we're going to ask Sophia to do just that. So look at this. It's given me a time phase breakdown from the beginning to the end of the project, January through August. It's given me the hours per month by role. And it's even actually given me the assumptions here, for example, like, we have a QA engineer backloaded on here. We have a UI UX designer front loaded on here, et cetera. And it's given me an idea what it might take from a resource effort perspective across that project. Pretty good stuff there as far as helping me if I'm doing something new and may not have an idea of what it's going to take to make that happen. Now, another key piece on this may be, what if we have to quantify our shortages of an overall resource capacity plan? We've noticed we have a lot of red in here. And I ask it, what resources do I need to hire in order to fulfill on this plan, or hire or contract? To determine, it tells us what we should consider. It's telling me the landscape of high workloads for IT business analysts and significant overages on developers, et cetera. And then we can follow on and ask that, how many resources per role would I need? And it'll analyze and give me an idea of where I'm short and take a look at that and basically tell me I need 2 more business analysts, I need 2 to 3 more developers, 1 additional resource in marketing, et cetera. And the idea is it's helping me with this type of analysis on a resource management basis as well. And I guess just a couple more examples on like investment forecasting and predictive analysis. So we can do cost-based analysis and do some prediction there as well. So we're going to ask it here in this financial plan for this particular project, what are the key insights and trends that can be inferred from the financial data? And as I look at that, I'm going to have it ask Sophia that question. And it'll give me a litany of the things that it wants us to see as the insights that it's come up with. So basically, the budget and forecast allocation for support are relatively low compared with other categories. This could imply that the support cost is not a significant factor for the project, or it has been well managed. It's giving me different analysis based upon the different financial spends on this project and what might be typical for that type of thing. Now, we might consider asking it a follow-on question. Do you have any recommendations, for example? So once again, we're having a conversation here. And based on the insights and trends, here are some recommendations. We might want to reassess our personnel costs, review budget allocation for the critical phases, because it's basically saying it's not typical, and give us some recommendations on things that we might want to look at. And I guess the last one that I would actually kind of point to is help us in generating narrative that we need. So for example, help me write a project summary email to my manager. Whoops, let me go back up here. And based upon this particular project, for example, I can basically come in, and yes, I have the status reports, but if I'm looking at maybe doing an email, it could ask me, and we asked it for an email, and it's writing it to me in email format. It's doing a cordial greeting, as well as the objectives and the progress and the key metrics, et cetera. And even, so it's going into quite a bit of depth here as we go look at this, and it's creating this, for me, and I can leverage it as I see fit, even just as an input of something I might get started and add to. So it even thanks us for ongoing support. So the idea here is that there's a lot of things that we're just scratching the surface on with these examples. And be aware that OnePlan with Sophia GPT is available now, and it's part of your overall subscription as a full subscriber to the OnePlan Enterprise Edition. It's not an extra module that has to be added on. So let's talk about summary and next steps. What we talked about today is that strategic portfolio management has become important to today's business environment. There's increased complexity, and the fast pace of change requires enhanced methods and approaches beyond what we used to be doing in the past. And OnePlan provides end-to-end strategic portfolio management in the Microsoft cloud. So we do provide SPM in the cloud in its entirety. And the use of AI provides valuable assistance and insights into our SPM efforts. Sophia GPT provides AI-enabled capabilities in OnePlan to make users more efficient and effective. And Sophia is now available, included in OnePlan. It leverages, once again, Azure OpenAI, which has the boundaries and the compliance and the protections of the Microsoft cloud, not just the open internet. And it's secure and safe to use, and you can optionally choose to turn it on within your organization if you like. Now, OnePlan is proud to say that we're consistently recognized as a leader in project and portfolio management and at the forefront of this strategic portfolio management realm. As a Microsoft partner, we've been named their Project and Portfolio Management Partner of the Year or the finalist for 5 consecutive years. So we're proud of that designation, and we're even recognized by folks like Gartner, Infotech Research from the analyst perspective on our thought leadership, as well as being recognized with awards on things like the SAS Awards and the Software Reviews for Strategy and Innovation. So once again, we do this because this is our passion and our focus. We're not a general systems integrator. We focus on this discipline, and we live and breathe this stuff. Now, if you want to try this stuff out, we do actually have free trials available to you. If you go to oneplan.ai/solutions, you can go and look from a variety of templates that are out there. I would strongly recommend, if you like what you saw today about strategic portfolio management, the most fully breadth of capability template that we have is the strategic portfolio management one. So please do that one if you're interested in everything you saw today. It's also available for you up on Microsoft AppSource if that's where you like to get your trials from. So we can help you determine what it might take to get into this solution. We're happy to do a free roadmap workshop to talk to you about your current use of tools, your current state and requirements, maybe what desired future state you'd like to get to, and we can determine, what that roadmap might be in order to get you there and what it might cost you. Because we're built for the Microsoft cloud and we use that infrastructure, you may own a good chunk of what you need already, and we might just be an incremental investment for you. So the free trial, please engage with us. You can get it yourself, but we're happy to engage with you and chaperone you through that trial so you get the most out of that trial, so you don't have to do it on your own. The roadmap workshop, we offer that to you. And if what I gave you as a demo was very high level today, if you want to go deeper and you want to look at your specific use cases, reach out to us and we're happy to engage with you and give a personalized one-on-one demonstration for you. And you can reach out generally at contact@oneplan.ai. You can research more about us at www.oneplan.ai, depending on where you're at in your evaluation or just research of solutions like this. But once again, we would love to engage with you. I'd like to thank you all for your time today in viewing this webinar. Hopefully you got value out of that and got to see some real life examples of what's available today. OnePlan is, in its name, wants to bring everything together into one common hub. We call it the power of one. So please do engage with us. My email's down here below if you want to reach out to me individually, or the general email. OnePlan is one interface, one experience, just one plan for it all. And we're really advancing the ball in strategic portfolio management, as well as interjecting AI in a real practical way to help you get better at that discipline. Thank you and have a great day.